All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to try to finish up part 2 of 4A, which is on controlling your finances, or just kind of an introduction to finance or managing finances. So the next thing, we had just done this example on determining the monthly interest on a credit card balance of $900. The next thing I want to talk about is prorating an expense, or it doesn't have to be an expense, it could be income, things of that nature. Okay, so prorating, guys, basically means distributing something proportionately. Okay, in this context, it's going to mean bringing an expense or a source of income over, maybe moving that from over a certain interval of time to another interval of time. Okay, so for example, if you spend $2,000 on tuition over a 3-month or a 4-month period of time, what would that be prorated to a monthly basis? So in other words, distributing that not looking at that 4-month time interval as one unit, but rather splitting that amount up over an individual month. Okay, so actually I looked up the definition, and let's see. Yeah, it says the meaning of prorate is to divide, distribute, or assess proportionately. Okay, so basically what we're going to be doing is given different expenses or sources of income, we're going to be prorating them, typically to a monthly, or it could also be to an annual basis. Okay. All right, so let's look at this example 4. It says, for this example, we want to prorate the given expenses to find the monthly cost. Okay, so Sarah pays $5,500 for tuition and fees for each of the 2 semesters, plus an additional $370 for textbooks each semester. Okay. And it says round to the nearest dollar. All right, so there's 2 semesters in a year, and if I'm reading this correctly, it's $5,500 for tuition and fees for each of the 2 semesters. So what I would do here, guys, is figure out what she's paying on an annual basis and then divide that by 12. Okay, and that will prorate it to a monthly cost. All right, so let's see. So basically, we've got $5,500 plus the $370 for books. So if we add that together, that's going to give us a total of $5,870 per semester. Okay, well, we know there are 2 semesters in a year, excluding summer terms. Those don't really count. So we're going to multiply this by 2, and I'm going to use my calculator. This will give us, be prorating it on an annual basis. Oh, there we go. Okay, so $5,870 times twice a year. And that's going to give us $11,740. Okay, and then we'll divide this by 12 because there are 12 months in a year. Now you could, I think I will. I'll set it up like a unit conversion. Okay, so $11,740 per year, and we know that there are, in 1 year, 12 months. Okay, and so our unit of time, years, there will divide out, and we're going to end up dividing, oops, I didn't mean to keep that color. we're going to end up dividing that sum by 12, okay? And that'll give us dollars per month, and then we'll round it. So let's see what this divided by 12 is. And to the nearest dollar, okay, this would round to $978 per month. Per month. Okay, now if you were trying to, you really probably should round up on this, okay, because if you just allocate this much per month, you're going to end up at the end of the year being a little bit short, right, because we're cutting off the change. But anyway. All right, and of course, you know, this is what you would be doing if you're trying to construct a monthly budget for yourself. Okay, so let's look at another example. So this says the expenses and income of an individual are given in this table below. Find the net monthly cash flow. It could be either positive or negative, as you know, and assume salaries and wages are after tax. It says when you need to convert between weeks and months, assume that there are only 4 weeks in 1 month. Okay, so this is an assumption. This is technically not true, but so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start looking at the income column. So anything that's not given as income per month, I'm going to need to prorate that. So you can see here, income from the part-time job is already given, $500 per month. The college fund contribution from the grandparents, that's already given on a monthly basis. However, the scholarship is not. This is given on an annual basis, so we need to prorate this. So it's per year, $6,000 per year, so you just simply divide that by 12, okay? And that, I believe, is going to be $500. So you can cross this out and put $500 per month, okay? All right, so that's my income. It's all been prorated. Now I'm going to come over here and prorate all my expenses. So the rent is already given on a monthly basis. The groceries, however, are not. So $50 per week. Well, if we're assuming that there are 4 weeks in a month, then I need to multiply this by 4. And that would take that to $200 per month, okay, for groceries. And then it says tuition and fees, $3,500 twice a year. So this is like that similar problem. We first need to double the $3,500. Okay. This will give us that expense on an annual basis, and then we'll need to divide it by 12. So 7,000. Well, you could also have done this, since it says twice a year, or this is like per half year. We know there's 6 months per each half year, so you could have just divided this amount by 6, or you could double it and then divide it by 12. You're going to get the same thing. It's just a matter of perspective. In any case, this is, I guess I'm going to round this to the nearest cent, so it would be $583.33, okay, per month. And that's for tuition and fees. And then finally, for incidentals, it's $90 a month, or excuse me, $90 a week. So if you multiply that by 4, then you're going to get $360 per month. Okay. So now that I have everything prorated, I'm going to add up all my income, add up all my expenses, and then subtract the two, or find the difference. All right, so my income, okay. Well, I tried to put an extra character in there, apparently. It's basically going to be the sum of the part-time job, the college fund, and the scholarship. So it's $500 for each of these times 3. That's going to give us a total of $1,500, okay, per month for income. Now for the expenses, it is $450 plus the $200 per month for groceries. I did the tuition and fees down here. That was $583 rather, 33 cents. Plus, finally, for incidentals, that is $360 per month. Okay, so I need to sum all these up, or sum these to not be redundant. Let's see, 583 and 33 cents plus 360, and this is going to give us $1,593.33. Okay, and so finally, the cash flow is going to be the difference. Remember, it's going to be income minus expenses. All right, so the income is $1,500 minus the expenses, $1,593.33. And guys, this is going to give us a negative. It's going to be a negative $93.33. Okay, so this individual is in the negative or in the red. All right, and of course it doesn't say how to round here, but it should in the homework. Okay. All right. Well, let's look at example 5. I think my cat's about to walk in front of the camera. All right, so example 5, it says the accompanying figure summarizes the average spending patterns for people of different ages in a certain nation. So this is similar to that graphic we looked at previously. It says determine whether the spending pattern given below is equal to, above, or below the national average. Assume that salaries and wages are after tax again, and this is the spending pattern. So it says a single 51-year-old man with a monthly salary of $4,200 is spending $210 per month on health care. Okay. All right, and so in order for us to determine whether he is spending more or less or equal to the national average here, or the average, we need to actually figure out what percentage is on healthcare is he spending of his total income. Okay, so his total monthly income is $4,200, and he's spending $210 of that on healthcare. So to figure out that percentage, similar to one of those previous examples in part 1 video, it's going to be the amount spent on healthcare divided by the total income. Okay, so he's spending $210 per month, and his total income is $4,200. Again, this is going to give us a decimal. Let's see what this is. Oh, 0.05. Remember, to convert a decimal to a percentage, you multiply by 100, or, which will move that decimal to the right 2 places, and this will end up giving us 5%. Okay, so what we need to do now is compare this with what we have in this bar graph. So he's a 51-year-old individual, so he's going to fall in this category right here in blue. And so we need to look at healthcare, and healthcare for his age group is 5%. Okay, so his expenditure on healthcare is equal to the average expenditure, okay, on health care. Now, if he were not 51 years old, let's say he was in this age category, he would be spending more, because you can see here the average is only 3%. Or if he were in the 65 and older category, he would be spending less than average. Okay. All right. All right, so now we're going to talk about insurance for a minute. And I put a little video that talks about insurance in Blackboard for you guys to watch. So a lot of this works better for my face-to-face classes because we get to discuss things. But I would ask them, to give me a definition of insurance. How would you define insurance? And I would define it very roughly as basically the price that's paid to protect someone or to hedge a person's risk, okay? Or you could even define it this way: the price that's paid to, or the cost to protect someone from unseen expenses, okay? And so there's all different types of insurance. If you watch that video, there's health insurance, there's automobile insurance, there's home insurance, there's life insurance, there's renter's insurance, financial insurance. You can get insurance on your pets, health insurance on your pets, so all sorts of things. But it's a way of protecting yourself or hedging, which is another way of saying, it's a financial term of saying you're trying to protect yourself from the unseen, okay, from the potential risk of something unplanned happening. And that could be, an automobile accident. It could be becoming sick, becoming maimed or injured such that you cannot work, or dying. So anyway, insurance has a cost, okay? It's not free. And the cost is referred to as the premium, okay? So in the context of automobile insurance, because that's what most people tend to be most familiar with, students anyway, you pay a premium to have automobile insurance to protect you financially in case you have an accident, okay? So let's go over some terms. So the overall cost of an insurance policy usually involves some combination of the following. So the premium is the amount that you're going to pay, and premiums can be prorated for different intervals of time. So you could pay an annual premium, you could pay a monthly premium, you could pay a premium. Your premium might be due every 6 months. That's actually the way we do with our automobile insurance. And typically it's a little bit cheaper that way than paying per month or month to month. And then a deductible is the amount that you're personally responsible for before the insurance company is going to pay anything, okay? So deductibles, if we're talking about automobile insurance, they can range anywhere from, say, $500 or to $2,000, or you could, if you want to pay for it, you can buy a policy or have a policy such that you don't have a deductible. Okay, of course, those policies are going to cost more. That's why lots of times, guys, if you'll hear people say, well, the amount doesn't exceed the deductible, what the deductible would be, so they end up not filing a claim. Let's say they have comprehensive automobile insurance, and there was some damage done to their vehicle, and they get an estimate for it, and it's going to be $1,000 to fix or repair. But they have a $2,000 deductible. Well, then there's no point in them filing a claim with their insurance company. Okay. Now there would be if the estimate was going to be $5,000 or $6,000. The deductible just means that that's what you're going to have to pay before the insurance company starts paying anything. And it says, for example, if you have an auto policy has $1,000 deductible, this means that you're going to have to pay that first $1,000, and then the insurance company will cover the rest. Okay. And then there's also what's called a copayment. This typically pertains to health insurance. Okay. Usually applies to health insurance, and it's the amount that you pay each time you use a particular service that's covered by the insurance policy. So for example, every time I go to the doctor, I have a copay. It's like $35. Okay, so it's usually a small amount, but it's an amount that you're always going to be responsible for. For example, if you have a $50 copay for office visits, then you're going to pay $50 each time you visit the doctor. Okay. All right, well, having defined those terms, we're going to look at some examples down here. So example 6, and guys, I took this from the book or from the homework, so it's not a great example in that it sort of paints the picture that insurance isn't worth it. But anyway, it says determine how much you would pay both with and without insurance. Okay, so it says you have a car insurance policy with a $2,000 deductible per claim for collision damage. And during a 2-year period, you file claims for $450 and then for $1,200. And then the annual premium for the policy is $650. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what this cost would be without insurance. Okay. So without insurance, of course, you're not going to pay the premiums to have insurance, so you can ignore the $650. And you can forget about the $200 deductible. That's not going to be pertinent. You're going to have to pay for these two expenses yourself. So whatever those expenses are, that's how much it's going to be without insurance. So essentially $450 plus $1,200, and that's going to give you a total of $1,650. So this is what you would pay for, for that body work if you didn't have insurance. Now, if we have insurance, okay, so with insurance. All right, well, the first thing you're going to have to pay for is the insurance. Okay, so it's an annual premium of $650. Well, this is a 2-year period of time that we're talking about. So you're going to have to pay that for each year. So you're going to multiply that by 2. And that's going to give you $1,300. Okay, so you're going to pay for that. Plus, when you file these claims, for each of these claims, you're going to have to pay $200. That's the deductible. So for this claim right here, $450, you pay the first $200, and then the insurance company pays the next $250, whatever's left over. And then for this claim right here, you pay the first $200, and then the insurance pays the other $1,000. Okay. So for each of these claims, you're paying $200. So essentially, it's $200 times 2 because you made 2 claims, and that's a total of $400. And if you add these up, that's going to give you a total of $1,700. Okay, so it's actually it's going to be more expensive over this 2-year period of time to actually have insurance. It's going to be $50 more expensive. So you may think, oh, okay, well, why don't I just not have, well, for one thing, of course, you're not required to have comprehensive insurance unless you're financing an automobile. But, if you are, you may wonder, well, why do I need it then? Well, for one thing, the narrative that this tells is not great simply because these 2 claims are rather small. Okay, body work or collision work is typically quite expensive, and lots of times, guys, when you're involved in an automobile accident, the expense is not just going to be $450. Otherwise, people probably a lot of people wouldn't have comprehensive insurance or comprehensive coverage. Typically, it's going to be in the thousands. And so, like if these two claims had both been in the thousands, then having insurance would be a lot cheaper than having to pay those expenses yourself. So anyway, but you do have an example like this or a couple problems like this in your homework. All right, so I think I put one last example here. So it says, consider a relatively simple health insurance plan with the following provisions. So it says, office visits require a copayment of $30. Okay, so this insurance policy that you have a copayment of $30, and then emergency room visits have a copayment of $250. And that's something else. Typically, emergency room visits have their own copayment. And also, typically with specialists as well, if you go to see a specialist, so like a neurologist or a cardiologist, they have a separate copayment. Typically, it's a little bit more. And then it says surgical operations have a deductible of $1,300. Okay, so in other words, you're going to have to pay that $1,300. And then the monthly premium is $390. So it says during a 1-year period, somebody insured by this health insurance plan has the expenses that are shown in this table. Okay, so they have a general office visit, and it costs, the total cost, this is what it would be without insurance, is $175. And then they have an emergency room visit for $580. They have another office visit. They have surgery for $10,000, another office visit, and then another emergency room visit for $840. So it says determine the person's healthcare expenses for the year with and without the insurance policy. Okay. All right, so let's do without first. So without insurance, you're just going to pay for all of these. Okay, you're not going to pay for any insurance, so you don't have to worry about this premium here. You just be responsible for all these expenses. So I'm simply going to add all these up in my calculator. All right, so $175 plus $580 plus another $175. I could have just said $175 times 3, right? Plus the $10,000 for the surgery. Another $175. And finally, $840, okay? All right, so this is going to be a total of $11,945 if you didn't have insurance here. Okay, now with insurance, okay, so the first thing I want to do is just add up the cost of simply paying for the insurance, and then we'll figure out what our cost would be, or our our responsibility would be for each of these expenses. Okay. Also, let me point out, you'll notice that even with insurance, you're still paying. Okay. Some people have the erroneous idea that having insurance basically allows you to do whatever you want and not pay anything. Okay. That's not what insurance is. And also, we're seeing some interesting things occur in the world. Here recently, we've seen a lot of natural disasters. This past summer, or at the time of this recording, we saw 2 major hurricanes hit Florida. And the last one, Helene, actually went up into Appalachia, or Appalachia, depending on how you pronounce it, and caused a lot of damage, if you guys remember that. Okay, and then furthermore, we're seeing those wildfires, or those, well, I don't know that they're actually wildfires, but those fires out in California around the LA area. And so, people that have home insurance, their insurance companies have to pay a lot of that. And so that's why insurance prices increase, okay? The more claims that are filed, or the more that the insurance company has to pay out, then the more it's going to cost to have insurance. And it can even be such that it's not even feasible for insurance companies to insure people. It becomes so expensive that they just say, okay, in the case of natural disasters or home insurance, some insurance companies are just saying, hey, we're not even insuring people against certain natural disasters in these areas, just simply because it's unsustainable. Okay, so anyway. All right, well, let's go ahead. So it says here the monthly premium is $390. Of course, you multiply that by 12. So 390 by 12. So $4,680, okay? Now that's what you're going to pay just to have the insurance. Now you're still going to have a responsibility for these different expenses. So for an office visit, all you're going to pay is the copay. Okay, so for this one, you're only going to be responsible for $30. But for the emergency room visit, you have a $250 copay. And then the insurance company pays whatever's left over. So you're going to pay $250. And then again, for this office visit, you're going to pay $30. Okay. And guys, I have health insurance through the school, and that doesn't guarantee that, I don't just go to the doctor whenever I feel like it. I'll tell you, I see a therapist for counseling, and I would like to go more often, but my copay is $35, and so because of that, I don't go on a weekly basis. So even with insurance, it can still be costly. So, all right, and then here for surgery, let's see. Surgical operations have a $1,300 deductible. Okay, so that means we have to pay that, and then the insurance company covers us for the rest of it. So $1,300, and then $30 for this next office visit. And then finally another emergency room visit, so another $250. So we need to sum these up. So 3 30s is going to be 90, plus we've got a couple 250s, that's 500, plus the deductible for the emergency room visit. That's why lots of times, guys, when a person is satisfied, like their deductible, let's say they had a $2,000 deductible, and they've satisfied it, meaning they've paid it because maybe they had some operation during the year. Lots of times they'll try to go ahead, if they need to have more work done or another operation, they'll try to go ahead and have it done within that same year, such that they don't have to repay that deductible. Because if they wait until the next year, then they're again responsible for that deductible. But if they have it in that same year, they've already paid the deductible. So that next operation, whatever its expense is, the insurance company will cover in totality. Okay, so that's why you may have done that yourself or know people that try to do that. All right, so this gives us an extra cost of $1,890. So you can clearly see here having insurance is going to be a lot cheaper. And that's because of this huge expense right here, okay? Because again, insurance really protects us against those big things, okay? If we could guarantee that nothing disastrous is ever going to happen to us, then it wouldn't make sense to have insurance. If I knew that all I'm ever going to have to go to the doctor for is to, whenever I don't know, get sick or have the flu or something, then, I probably wouldn't even have insurance. All right, well, let's add these two together. 4,680. All right, so 6,570. Okay, so you can see here that simply by having insurance, you're saving yourself over $5,000. All right, well, you guys have a homework question like this one, and this is one that's tripped students up a lot in the past, simply because they're not familiar with this whole concept of a co-payment and a deductible and things of that nature. So I thought I would do one for you. All right, guys, well, I'll let you go for now.